Hi everyone, I'm Danny Ferrier, and today I'd love to dive into a really important topic is one-to-one conversations with your team members. So I'm really curious, who is already having one-to-one conversations on a consistent basis with their team members, and who knows that this is something that they want to implement? So type it in the chat below and comment on this video. I would love to get your insights into what you find effective within those one-to-one conversations. And for those of you that are not consistently doing one-to-ones, today we're going to dive into why it's important that you spend time with your team members on a one-to-one basis so that you can help them to develop and transform. Now, the reason why this is so incredibly important is because as humans, we have fundamental needs. Everybody has the same fundamental needs. And this comes from a body of work by Tony Robbins called the 6 Core Needs. And they are growth, contribution, certainty, uncertainty, and then there's 2 needs of the spirit, of course, is to be loved, and the next one is to make sure that you are part of something greater than yourself. And the first one, growth. We all need to grow. And there's a beautiful quote that reads, "You are either green and growing or you are ripe and rotting." And that applies to everything in nature, and it also applies to humans. And the other need that I mentioned was certainty and uncertainty. We have this need within us to have variety, to have a sense of challenge for ourselves so that we have that uncertainty, but it creates a foundation for us to be okay with uncertainty. And one-to-one conversations help us to meet all of those needs. They help your team member to feel loved and belong. They help them to feel like they're part of something greater than themselves. And most importantly, they help them feel that they're growing. So a one-to-one conversation helps our team members because it gives us the opportunity to sit with them and help them to see what their next level is. And when this doesn't happen, when there's no one-to-one meetings happening within an organization or within a business, team members start to disengage. They start to stay the same in their growth, and sometimes they can't even work it out what it is that they're feeling, but just on some level, they just don't really feel that engaged anymore. They don't really feel like they care as much anymore because they sort of started learning when they took over the role, and then they get to a plateau. And if you're not giving them their next stage, that plateau continues and continues until it starts to degrade. And that's when you get people leaving. The other part to this is that it creates an opportunity for you to really clearly connect and communicate with that team member. We're all really busy. Everybody's busy. And sometimes maybe there's missed communication, or maybe the team member misunderstands you. But when you have an incubator and a time with that team member to connect, then they start to understand you on a deeper level, and it helps a lot with the communication because you've created a bridge and an opportunity to understand each other. It really helps to have these conversations consistently, because you may say to me, "Oh, I check in with my staff all the time." Yes, and the challenge with that is you might be checking in with them, but what often happens, and I hear this all the time from my business owners, is that you're talking about processes. You're talking about the things that they're doing. And that doesn't leave room for you to talk about the bigger picture. What is actually, when you step back from the processes of what they're doing in your business, where are they actually heading in terms of their own evolution? So that is a big picture moment. And when we're in everyday doing mode, even though you're checking in with them consistently, I can bet that you're going to go into process rather than elevating the conversation into what is truly important to you as a whole. What is really important for you in your life, and what are you seeking to achieve? And the next part to this, and this is so, it really touches my heart when business owners start to get this, is that we've got to teach our team members to care. And quite often people, they grow up in different environments and they haven't necessarily been inspired to engage, inspired to take responsibility, inspired to have that ownership mentality. And so they're just plodding day in, day out, doing what they normally do. But in that one-to-one session, you have an opportunity to elevate them, to teach them how to care. And what that does is it creates a culture of contribution. It creates an element of care in everything, because you are helping them see that you care. And if they can see that you are modeling that, then they will care for your customers. They will put in an effort with their team members. But if you're really busy and you're running around doing all the other things and not taking the time to truly care, how can you expect them to care? So I trust that this is a really important message for some of you, because life is hectic. I get it. Being a business owner and a leader is really demanding. And recognizing how important this is and the flow-on effects of one-to-one conversations creates a engaging and empowered team culture. And that is what truly matters in business. Not your sales, not your benchmarks, the way that people feel within your organization. So how do we create consistent one-to-ones? Well, the first thing is to set up every 3 months a conversation with each and every person. And these can range from half an hour to 45 to an hour. And the reason why there's a variation is because I understand that business owners initially haven't properly learned how to delegate. They're quite often in firefighting mode. And if you can start with half an hour, that is awesome. But the gold mark is for an hour, a whole hour every 3 months with each team member. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a formal conversation and bringing them into the office. That would be ideal. But I had one client, for example, and they drive to the West Coast quite often. And once every 3 months, they have what we call an intentional drive. So that intentional drive means that they're asking the same questions, but they're doing it in a practical way, because there was no other time that we could find currently that would work for the business owner because of the amount of travel that he did. But he understood that you can't just have a chat in the car and expect it to be the same. It has to be intentional, with the same questions, the same level of care, and the same level of attention that you would give someone if you were sitting face to face with them. And the consistency is key, because if you're cancelling those meetings on your team member, guess what message you're giving them? You are telling them that you don't care. And that is the opposite of what we want to achieve here. So put it in your diary, black it out, and don't change those one-to-ones. Also, making sure that you have reminders in place of what it is that you've talked about within those one-to-ones. And if you want to learn more specifically how you can be effective at these one-to-one conversations, I have a beautiful framework that I would love to share with you. And that framework dives deep into exactly how you have these conversations. The next part to this is you as the leader stepping into coaching role. So like I said, I have a framework for this with coaching questions and a way that you can do this effectively. But just to set up the mindset, it's really about you learning how to pass on your wisdom and your knowledge. And when you are in that coaching space, you start to go from I know it all to we are going to find how you can get to the next level. So you're on the team with the team member. You're there supporting them. And you do this in a couple of ways. First of all, getting really clear on what the goals are of the team member. But secondly, challenging them and supporting them to see things in other ways. Somebody can set a goal for themselves, but maybe they've got their own limits, or maybe they don't understand how they could do it differently, and then they end up reaching the goal in the same way every time. So your job as the leader is to get curious about where their limits are. You can start to ask better questions, dive a little bit deeper into what it means to the team member once they've achieved what they set out to achieve. So just to summarize what we've talked about today is one-to-one conversations with your team members, having them consistently, making sure that you swap into that coaching mindset of helping people to stretch themselves past their limits, and ultimately caring about where they are at in their development. Because as you start to do this more and more, and you help your team members to continue to meet their goals, and you're challenging them to expand their capacity, if you think about it, you as the leader are evolving yourself and you're growing. And if you aren't getting coached or you don't have mentors, please reach out. But hopefully you're growing and evolving. And then you're bringing your team members on the journey so that each and every one of them is also slowly evolving over time. And as long as everyone is growing and everybody is developing, the company will then evolve, and you will have so much more capacity, even if you think 2 years' time, 3 years' time, what could be possible if everybody on your team was truly living up to their potential. So thank you for your time and listening. I really appreciate it. I'm Danny Ferrier. Drop in the link below what stood out for you, and I would love to hear from you. Bye for now.